Mazda Super Series. We're here at Cadwell Park for round 7, 8 and 9. The car is about to go out and we've got Josh Jackson back in position 1. Andy, over to you.
Yeah, thanks very much, Lindsay. And here are the cars lining up on the grid. Here's how they line up. Josh Jackson and Jake Bailey make up row 1. Ahead of Nick Dunn and Tom Collins on row 2. Then Simon Orange and Simon Fleet, Matt Pickford and Jeremy Crook rounding out row number 4. Liz Walton is at the tail of the field and will be looking to try and improve her pace as the weekend goes on. So we've seen so far this season 6 races, 5 of which have been won by Josh Jackson. He is on pole position for this one as well. The only other man to win a race is Jake Bailey though, and he is the black car, the dark blue car that starts on the outside of row number 1. But the lights are out, we're away and racing, and they head down towards the first corner for the first time with the white car with the black front leading the way into the first turn, and that was Josh Jackson from pole position leading the field around on the opening lap here at the picturesque Lincolnshire circuit at Cadwell Park. Jake Bailey slots through into second place. Tom Collins there in third. He's been a front runner in the MX-5 Super Cup in recent seasons. So too Nick Dunn, Super Cup regular, in fourth position there. So they streak their way up towards the right-hander at the top of the hill, and it is nose to tail for most of the field. There was the 67 car of Simon Orange diving up the inside of Matt Pickford's number 16 and making a move stick on the way up towards the top of the hill. Matt Pickford having made a good start, just starting to slip down the order slightly. Back down towards the gooseneck and Mansfield, and around the outside tries to go Jake Bailey. That was an optimistic manoeuvre. It almost left him vulnerable to attack from Tom Collins behind. They just about find their position back in line. They streak now down towards one of the most famous pieces of tarmac in British motorsport, the mountain here at Cadwell Park, and then the Hall bends. A really challenging sequence of corners this. They leap into oblivion over the top of the hill, and then into this series of rights and lefts that are high speed, but oh well, those floppy markers didn't last long, did they? Josh Jackson, the race leader, first man on the scene, wipes them both out, and then down. Turn their way now through this tight right-hander at the hairpin into Barn Corner. Very, very tricky corner. This off-camber downhill, deceptively tight and zero runoff area on the exit of the corner before you're into those rectocell barriers. Fifth place, by the way, is Simon Fleet in the blue car with the pit wheels. Simon Orange is 6th, Matt Pickford 7th. The rest of them falling a little bit further back. These top 4 inseparable at the moment. Tom Collins has a look at the inside towards Charlie's. There's been a contact. Oh, there's contact. Off goes the race leader. The race leader off onto the grass, and Tom Collins goes through into the lead, but he went up the inside of Josh Jackson there into the first part of Charlie's, locked up the brakes, and unfortunately for Josh Jackson, he was the innocent victim there, and I'm not convinced he's been able to rejoin the circuit. So new order, Collins leads the way, Bailey in second place, third place for Nick Dunn, and into fourth place now is Simon Fleet. We believe that Jackson has rejoined the circuit, but quite some way back. There's a bit of damage to the front of Collins' car. Well, it's such a tempting move to make that. Tom has been carrying good speed through Coppice, the first corner here at Cadwell Park, all race long. And it does set you up. You're on that side, the right-hand side of the road naturally anyway, coming out of Coppice. Have to wait and see what his lap times look like as the race goes on, but he's definitely closing in on Simon Orange fairly rapidly, and I'd imagine he'll be a bit fired up after that contact with this man, Tom Collins, a few laps ago, who is still holding on to the race lead, or is he? Jake Bailey gets into the back of him now, and here's a replay of that. Bailey tried to get the over-under, just misjudged it slightly, and that was a fair whack. It's popped the headlight out, but he has got the race lead away, so Tom Collins drops down to second place. Jake Bailey gets the lead now. This has been a typical Mazda MX-5 race. More than likely be the only one as well, because the rest of the field all running very, very competitively indeed. Over the hill, down in towards the hairpin, very originally named corner, and then Barn Corner. There's something dragging there underneath Jake Bailey's car, so I wonder whether that's maybe hampering a straight line performance. I don't think it's anything mechanical. I think it's just some bodywork or some of the undertray that's come loose, but presumably that contact that he had into the back of Tom Collins' car, that possibly has damaged the front splitter or something, and it's just dragging on the ground. Collins' rear bumper, of course, is loose after that contact as well, flapping in the wind. We are now on to the final lap of the race, and has Tom got anything for Jake Bailey. He'll try and get in the slipstream out of Charlie's, which he will do, I think. He's not quite as close as he has been on previous laps. You can see it's about 3 car length advantage for Bailey as he goes over the hill for the final time. That will shrink as the slipstream starts to take effect, but if anything, Collins is now falling into the clutches of Nick Dunn in 3rd position. 3 of these drivers will be reasonably happy with the podium, particularly Dunn and Collins, who have not raced in the series this season so far, so they will both be quite happy to start off their season on the podium. But Jake Bailey really wants to win some more races. Underneath the Cadwell Park bridge they go for the final time, and really running out of overtaking opportunities now. Very close between these 3, all race long. Collins having to watch his mirrors there as Nick Dunn thought about going up the inside into the mountain. That will just take a bit more of the pressure away from Jake Bailey now as well as they go into the Hall Bends for the final time. Oh, Dunn tries the outside line. What a move that is if he makes it stick. He's got 2 wheels on the grass, and yes, he's gone through at the part of the circuit where he made that mistake earlier on and ended up all over the grass. That was one of the best moves I've seen in a long time at Cadwell Park, round the outside into the Hall Bends, and he made it stick. Well, that will be 2nd place for Nick Dunn, but the race victory for the 2nd time in 2018 goes the way of Jake Bailey. Jake Bailey sees the checkered flag first, Nick Dunn in 2nd, and Tom Collins comes home 3rd. Confirmation of the result there. 4th for Josh Jackson, 5th Simon Fleet, 6th Simon Orange, 7th for Matt Pickford. Jeremy Crook came home in 8th position. Walton, as I said, the only driver, 1 lap down.
Long race. It always is when you're at the sharp end, and everyone's sort of on your tailpipes. But yeah, had a good race. It's a shame about Josh. This is normally me and him who've been battling for the last couple of rounds. But yeah, good race nonetheless.
To be fair, Jake, Josh, and Tom were really wanted it. To be fair, I was sort of quite happy to sit back and watch the carnage. They really did want it.
Congratulations, Collins. That must have been some hell of a race for you.
Yeah, it was. We started 4th on the grid, and then managed to work his way up to 1st, and then got dropped back to 2nd, and then after that we just running in 2nd.
Welcome back for the beginning of race 2. We're currently in the holding area where we see Jake Bailey in P1 after a controversial race yesterday with seeing Josh Jackson end in P4. So Andy, we'll hand it over to you to run through the rest of the grid.
Yes, thank you, Lyndsay. It was a controversial race yesterday, lots of talking points. They start this one the way in which they finished that race. So Bailey from Dunn, from Collins and Jackson, the top 4. Then Simon Fleet and Simon Orange, and Matt Pickford and Jeremy Crook next in line. And then it is Liz Walton at the back of the grid, as she was yesterday. The green flag flies, and we're about ready to get underway after what was a sensational race yesterday. A bit too much contact maybe for a few people's likings, but it was very entertaining, there's no doubt about that. The red lights go on, they go out now, and who makes the start at the front of the grid? Keep an eye on Josh Jackson, the white and black car from the outside of row number 2. We're on board with him now, looking forward at Tom Collins, who slots through into 3rd. It's wheel to wheel for the race leading towards turn number 1. Around the outside line, Nick Dunn trying to get the inside line for Charlie's, which could just work. On board with Jackson, he's got a grandstand view of this. Simon Fleet to our left-hand side will go right round the outside of us and actually gets himself ahead of the driver who's been doing all of the winning this year so far. So Bailey leads the way, Dunn 2nd, Collins 3rd, Fleet 4th, Jackson 5th, and Simon Orange down to 6th position. And then everyone else sliding through. Jeremy Crook, that looks like, is in 7th, ahead of Matt Pickford in 8th. Dropping up now onto the brakes in towards Park Corner, and the race leader Jake Bailey just runs a little bit wide there, a bit of a twitch as he turned in on cold tyres and hangs on to the race lead, but for how much longer, because we saw that Nick Dunn and Tom Collins were every bit as quick as Jake in yesterday's race, and I don't expect anything will change in this one. It looks like Simon Fleet is up for this as well, doesn't it, in 4th place, pulling away actually from Josh Jackson at the moment. He's got his hands full of Simon Orange through Mansfield, and then back out towards the mountain section, as we saw in yesterday's race. For the first few laps, the whole field staying fairly close together. Oh, Nick Dunn on the inside. He's thought about this a few times in yesterday's race. He's trying to do it on Jake Bailey. There's a bit of contact. Is the yes, Bailey sideways, gathers it together, but that nearly went horribly wrong. Dunn up the inside now towards the Hall Bend, which is where he made a sensational pass yesterday on Tom Collins on the last lap, and Bailey's on the grass. Oh, Jay Bailey on the grass, he slides in front of the whole pack. Dunn spins in front of everyone. Oh, just about avoided by Josh Jackson. That could have gone horribly wrong, and Nick Dunn has not had a good time of it through the Hall Bends. He had it off there early on in race 1 trying to overtake, and then he did make a good move on the last lap on Collins to take 2nd place. This This time around, though, it did not work, and Tom Collins has come out of it all with the race lead. Bailey comes back at him on the inside, though, down towards turn number 1. Side by side, Bailey on the inside line. Collins will not give him up without a fight, though. All very close to the grass there as they went out of the first corner at Coppice, and it will be Bailey that goes back ahead. Well, sensational racing once more from the MX-5 Super Series. Bailey with 2 wheels on the grass coming out of Charlie's. That will mean that he could be a sitting duck in the slipstream up towards Park Corner. He moves over to the middle of the road to the fence, but Collins thinks he sees a gap up the inside. No, not quite. Hard on the brakes now. This is brilliant stuff, though, isn't it? And it was a shame that that had to end in tears there for Nick Dunn, because it would have been interesting to see. And he made that move for the lead stick, just what he could have done about it, whether he could have pulled away, because he's had promising pace, not necessarily been able to deliver the results that arguably he should have been able to. So Bailey still leads. Bailey now leads, I should say, from Collins second and Fleet in third. I've no idea what that did to the order behind, because Josh Jackson, of course, was the first man on the scene as Nick Dunn was spinning. I think they've all continued, but where, I don't know. Jackson, though, for the second race in succession with an early issue, not of his making, it must be said, on either occasion, arguably, and he's now got to fight back because of it. Tom Collins this time, the man who wipes out the floppy markers at the entrance to the Hall Bends. They never last long, do they? You always wonder why they bother putting them back between races. They are supposed to be there to deter the drivers from exceeding the track limits, but one does feel that a plastic floppy marker will be less of a deterrent than, say, a wall or a tyre stack or even just a big curb. But I can sort of understand why, for safety reasons, they don't want to do that, but it always makes me laugh when those marker posts go flying. So that's a shame. Nick Dunn with some sort of an issue, and he's no longer part of this fight, so that is a shame, because he was, of course, ahead of Josh Jackson, was the man most likely maybe to break out of this pack and finish 4th, but that has not been the case. It's late, I don't think. He's pulled off out on circuit somewhere. So Jackson now has Simon Orange breathing down his neck, and he's still being bottled in behind the very impressive Jeremy Crook. Long-time MX-5 Super Cup racers, both he and Simon Orange. Josh Jackson a little less experienced, but still very, very rapid indeed, looking for a gap up the inside towards Park. There's no gap, so Crook defends it nicely, goes in on the tight line into Park Corner, though. That's always risky because the road really flattens out on the exit of that corner. It's very easy when you go in on the tight inside defensive line to just skate a bit wide onto the grass, but he avoided that, thankfully. Back through the gooseneck, down the hill. Ooh, Orange a bit sideways in the background. The ambient temperature not particularly high here this morning, so the tyres just struggling a little bit for outright temperature. In a way that these are the perfect conditions for really quick lap times, because the cooler the air temperature is, the more efficient the engine runs. So you do get a bit more horsepower. The tyres actually grip the circuit a little bit better when it's temperatures in sort of the low to mid teens rather than when it's into the 20s and 30s. So Josh Jackson, like all the drivers out there, running on the grooved tyres, which seem to be lasting him fairly well. Tom Collins has been in imperious form in this race. We didn't see exactly how he got the race lead, but he did get it, and ever since then has been able to pull a pretty good lead over the cars behind and left them to fight in his wake. He's now only half a lap or so, over half a lap or so, away from his first victory of the season. We're going to have 2 different winners from the first 2 races. Now, we've not yet had a weekend with 3 different winners. Could this be the weekend? Because we've had a Jake Bailey win, a Tom Collins win, but Nick Dunn, Josh Jackson, of course, they're both potential race winners in race 3 later on today, so it's all still to play for. And there are other drivers out there nowadays in this series capable of winning races, which is exactly what we wanted to see. Thinking back to Brands Hatch, back at the start of the season, it was, and even at Snetterton, to be honest, it was very often a big gap between Josh Jackson and Jake Bailey at the front of the field. Well, This time around, they're not even at the front of the field. Yes, they've had their various dramas, but nonetheless, Tom Collins has been on pace all weekend. Here is Josh Jackson, still struggling to find a way past Jeremy Crook as he goes through the mountain for the final time. Gets a much better exit though, looks to the outside line as they go towards the Hall Bends. But the race leader is Tom Collins, and he is coming towards the start-finish line to win the second race of the weekend here at Cadwell Park, excuse me. Second place will go the way of Jake Bailey, and third place will go the way of Simon Fleet. This is the fight for fourth, and Jeremy Crook is going to hang on to fourth position ahead of Josh Jackson fifth. And there is confirmation of the result. 8.2 seconds in the end was the winning margin for Collins over Bailey and Fleet. Then it's Crook in fourth, Josh Jackson down in fifth. A disappointing weekend for him. Sixth place for Simon Orange, seventh for Matt Pickford, and eighth for Liz Walton.
Jake, you're back on P1. That's all I can really say.
Oh, it was a good race. Yeah, thank you very much. Tom kept me true for most of that race, and I knew it was going to be difficult. But a late move down in the top corner sort of just saw me through. So yeah, really good race.
Collins, that was a huge, well-deserved second place. You kept Bailey off the back of you for the majority of that.
Yeah, he got me in the end though. Just going down to down the park into that corner there, and he just managed to get on the inside of me. We both braked as late as we could, locked up, and nearly ended up on the grass. But yeah, it was good. Kept me on my toes, so it's brilliant.
Welcome back to the BRSCC Mazda Super Series. We're in the holding area where we see Simon Fleet in P3 and Jake Bailey in P2. Now they had quite an exciting race in race 2, so I'm really excited to see what happens. But we have Thomas Collins in P1, who's very sharply becoming the man of the weekend. So I'm going to hand it over to Andy to run us through the rest of the grid.
Yeah, we've had some great racing this weekend, and let's hope that continues in race 3. They start this one how they finished race 2, so it's Collins and Bailey row 1 ahead of Fleet and Crook row 2. Josh Jackson is on row 3 with Simon Orange, and Matt Pickford and Liz Walton on row 4. Nick Dunn, our only retirement from the second race of the weekend, starts at the back. But you can see a few of the cars have got their windscreen wipers on. There's just a bit of drizzle in the air here this afternoon, but not enough to give us a fully wet track just yet. As for the final times, the red lights go on, they go out now, and away we go. And on board with Josh Jackson, you can see some of the spots of rain on the windscreen there. Who gets the start at the front there? It's going to be Collins that leads down towards turn 1. Jeremy Crook trying to bully his way around the outside. That's not going to work though. Who will be second? Fleet or Bailey? They're side by side into the first corner, and Bailey has the bravery to go right around the outside at the first turn. Coppice to get the inside line for Charlie's, and that will put him into second position. Josh Jackson, after spending much of the second half of race 2 stuck behind Jeremy Crook, has not been able to get past him off the line in race 3, so he's still staring at the back of the 77 car. It's Simon Orange and Nick Dunn the next 2 through, and Nick Dunn had a mysterious retirement in race 2. Let's hope that we get to see him work his way right the way through to the front in race 3. So Collins and Bailey, 2 race winners so far this weekend, not first and second. Fleet is third, and then side by side for fourth. Jackson there looking at the inside of the 77 car of Jeremy Crook at the top of the hill, couldn't do it. Dunn and Orange are side by side, and Dunn trying to go right down the outside of the never-ending right-hander at Chris Curve. That takes some doing. Back with Jackson. What order will they find themselves in as they come down towards Mansfield for the first time? Still Simon Orange ahead of Nick Dunn and Matt Pickford there towards the tail end of the train of cars. On board with Jackson. Want to get past Crook as quickly as possible before the leaders make too much of a break for him in front of the field. Jackson will feel that he's the fastest driver here this weekend, having stuck on pole position in qualifying yesterday morning, but as Tom Collins gets a wheel on the dirt there going over the mountain, Jackson just hasn't really had the rub of the green in the race. He's up the inside of Crook though into the Hall Bends, and that's a nice move. It's very difficult to run side by side through there, just ask Nick Dunn, but Josh Jackson makes it stick and gains the position. So Collins leads the way, Bailey in second in what we believe will be a slightly shortened race because of a few delays that we've had early on in the race. We'll be 15 minutes instead of 20 minutes, so even less time to make your impact in this one. At the end of the opening lap, Tom Collins leads the way. Second place for Jake Bailey. Third place is Fleet, and they're side by side again for the race leads. They're heading towards turn 1. Bailey trying to get around the outside. There is definitely a score to settle between these two. They have a winner piece this weekend. For Jake Bailey, it was his second of the year. For Collins, it was his first of the year because this is his first weekend racing in the series in 2018. And they both want to go out of this weekend twice a winner at Cadwell Park rather than just once a winner. To breaks into Park Corner already way slightly from Simon Fleet in third, who it has to be said is not being reeled in by a real rate of knots by fourth place man Josh Jackson. Back Look out, ooh, floppy markers go flying again up at the gooseneck there. That was courtesy of Tom Collins even, who has sent a few floppy markers flying this weekend, and I think everyone has at one point or another. There was some cement dust that's been laid down from a previous race towards mountain section. Collins seems to have gapped Bailey now just slightly. So Collins, the leader, can he pull away, or is he going to have to fight a rearguard action for the entire duration of the race? So Jeremy Crook just closes in once again through the Hall bends. Hard on the brakes to the right-handed hairpin at the bottom of the hill. Another corner where it's so easy just to run wide on the grass, either lock up the front brakes on the way in or spin up the rear wheels on the way out. Just go through onto the final lap of the race. So Jake Bailey, your leader. He's built up a small margin over Tom Collins. It's certainly not comfortable, but it is some breathing room. I don't think Tom is quite close enough to get the slipstream down the park straight this time around. Get a whiff of it. He might just close in towards the end of the straight, but he's not going to be close enough to have a go under braking, I don't think. He's not, so Bailey has seen off the challenge through the obvious overtaking opportunities on the circuit, but there are some slightly less obvious places where you can try and make a pass, and one of those is down here at Mansfield, where Bailey will have to be watching his mirrors because Collins has closed back in, and now we're heading into a part of the circuit which Collins does seem to go well at, through the mountain and the Hall bends, and on this final time of asking, Collins is definitely close enough to be of concern to Jake Bailey. Jake was making a mistake, for example, coming out of this corner of the mountain, Collins will be straight up the inside, but he doesn't do that. He holds on to the position. And now, really, it's just single file stuff down towards the end of the lap. This is Mazda MX-5 racing. You never do count any chickens until they've crossed the line. But it will be difficult to make a move, I think, through the final corner, as indeed proved to be the case. And so, for the second time this weekend and the third time in 2018, it is race victory for Jake Bailey. Jake Bailey takes the checkered flag. Second place goes the way of Tom Collins. Third for Simon Fleet. Fourth, Josh Jackson. Fifth for Nick Dunn. Simon Orange sixth, Jeremy Cook seventh, Matt Pickford eighth, and Liz Walton comes home in ninth, and the last of the finishers.
Well, we started third on the grid, and managed to get up onto first place by the end of Hall bends. So I don't know what happened there, but you know, it worked in our favour. And then after that, we I think Josh got back in front of me again, but he binned it off at gooseneck, and I managed to get in front and just pull the lead, and then we just like to test it really from then.
Simon, that was an amazing race. What happened in that last corner?
Well, I'm the happiest man in the world, obviously. Last corner, I was much quicker than him and pulled about a 20-yard gap. But then he was on me by Charlie's 1, Charlie's 2. We were almost going into it side by side, and it's whoever could get to park first. And I held him off for about 5 or 6 laps, and then he just managed to get tight enough on the inside of me that was it.